Okay, so now I'm going to go over your procedural safeguards. And the procedural safeguards is a comprehensive written explanation of your rights under IDEA. A copy of the procedural safeguards has to be provided to parents once a year and with specific actions. And the procedural safeguards have to be written in a language understandable to the parent. Okay, so as I said, procedural safeguards have to be provided at least once a school year. Upon initial referral or parent request for an evaluation, including a reevaluation, on the date of a decision to make a disciplinary change of placement for a violation of code of conduct, and that will be reviewed in a later section. And also upon the occurrence of a filing of a due process hearing request or a child complaint. At that time, the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education provides the procedural safeguards. And then, of course, whenever a parent requests a copy, they're to be provided. So this is in the state of Missouri only, and back in 2009, Missouri legislator passed a bill that created the Parents' Bill of Rights. And the Parents' Bill of Rights has to be provided anytime procedural safeguards are provided. Basically what they are, it's a very simplified version of your procedural safeguards. It's in very plain language and in bullet points what your rights are under the law. So anytime you receive a copy of procedural safeguards as a parent, you should also be receiving a copy of your Parents' Bill of Rights. And we have examples of those provided to you. Okay, so procedural safeguards covers a large amount of information, and it can be really overwhelming. I'm going to go through some of the highlights that most parents will want to take advantage of. So listed here are all of the different things that are covered in procedural safeguards: independent educational evaluations, prior written notice, parental consent, access to records, availability of mediation, child's placement during pendency of any due process hearing, opportunity to present and resolve complaints through the state, procedures when disciplining children with disabilities, what is required if parents are seeking a private school placement at public expense, hearings on due process complaints including required disclosures, state level appeals, civil actions, and attorney fees. So that's a lot of information. So I'm going to highlight a few of these things. And the first one is independent educational evaluation, or what we refer to as an IEE. So if a parent disagrees with the school evaluation, they can request an IEE at public expense. So with that initial evaluation or any reevaluation, a parent can say, I don't agree with the results, I don't agree with the determination, and request from the school district an independent educational evaluation paid for by the school district. To do that, you would write a letter to the Director of Special Education, and we also provide a letter template to show parents how you can do that. When an independent educational evaluation is requested, the school district must agree to pay for that independent evaluation, or they have to request a due process hearing to defend their evaluation and not pay for it. When the parent requests an independent educational evaluation, the school district is required to provide the parent with information on where to obtain that independent evaluation and any criteria that the district requires for that independent educational evaluation. What you need to know as a parent is that you are not required to use the people that are provided by the school district. You can choose any person as long as they're qualified to administer that test. So for instance, if you wanted a language evaluation, you can use your own private speech and language pathologist because they are qualified to administer speech and language testing. The district will also give cost criteria for those evaluations. So for instance, they may say they'll pay $500 for an IQ test and $400 for an achievement test and $350 for a language test. And then they might say that their criteria is they won't pay more than $1,000 total for all testing. And those lists of people that they provide should be able to meet those criteria. So they should have a list of people who can give cognitive testing or IQ testing for $500, achievement testing for $450, etc. What IDEA says is that they can't impose cost limits that are outside of the norm or the going rate for our area. So you may find a private speech and language pathologist to administer a language test, and it might be more than the $350. If that happens, what I recommend is that you sign a release of information for the speech and language pathologist or whatever private tester that you have to contact the district directly. And typically, the only thing you have to show is that that is a typical rate in the area. That's the going rate in the area. And you can do that by getting estimates from 3 to 4 other speech and language pathologists in the area that show that is a common charge for that test. If the school successfully defends its evaluation in the due process, then the independent educational evaluation is not at public expense, but the parent can go ahead and privately pay for that evaluation. The district must indicate to the parent that they're going to file a due process. Otherwise, they agree to pay for the independent evaluation. So whether or not the results of that independent evaluation are paid for by the school district, those results must be considered by the IEP team or the school team when making any decisions about the provision of FAPE to the child. So they don't necessarily have to accept the results and recommendations of the independent evaluation, but they do have to consider those results, and they need to document that they considered those results. And they do that by holding a meeting to review those results. And then if they disagree, you can always ask for prior written notice, or what we refer to as a notice of action refused, which I'll be going over next. So prior written notice, or what I refer to as notice of action refused. So first of all, when providing prior written notice to parents, again, it has to be written in language understandable to the general public and provided in the native language or mode of communication of the parent. And it includes all of these things. It includes a description of the action the school district proposes or refuses to take, an explanation of why the district proposed or refused to take the action, description of each evaluation procedure assessment that they considered when determining to propose or refuse to take the action, a description of any other choices the team considered, and the reason why those choices were rejected, and then any other relevant information. It also has to indicate that the parents have available to them a copy of their procedural safeguards, and that they can have assistance in understanding any portion of that. So this is an example of a notice of action. And just to review, if it were to consider an independent educational evaluation, it would be dated, and it would say notice of action. I'm going to say refused in this instance. Other would be to implement recommendations from an independent educational evaluation. The explanation of the action. The district refuses to increase language minutes to 120 as recommended in the independent educational evaluation. The options it considered and why rejected. The team considered increasing language minutes to 120 minutes per week. They rejected it because they did not feel it was necessary to progress in the general education curriculum. The basis for the action was progress on goals, review of the independent evaluation, and there may not be other relevant factors. But this is written documentation that a parent can use when they disagree with the school district. And this is what would be required if a parent wanted to move forward with any type of appeal option. And so it's a very important documentation.